Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello, and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast, episode 2. My name is Dr. Modupe, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I've been doing this for the past 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I will share insights, stories, and lessons about people having success in Africa. I've created this podcast because I am determined to transform Africa from a continent of potential to a continent of performance. We are blessed with the world's greatest resource, and that's young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world. And when these people achieve success, Africa's performance will be unparalleled. Why? Because I don't know of too many Africans whose goal in life it is to die a failure. Success in life is the achievement of a predetermined goal. See, for some people, success may be educating their children up to university level. For somebody else, it may be creating a profitable business that employs 1,000 people. For another person, it may be having 1 billion kwacha or cedis or rand in their bank account. Whatever your definition of success is, this podcast has been created to help you to achieve it. So if you are serious about achieving success in Africa, I want you to subscribe to this podcast. Click the like button. Send me your comments and feedback. This podcast is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, Africa's largest leadership coaching company. If you have questions that you want to ask me about this video, just log on to BCA Online. The link is on the screen. Post your questions there. That is where I will respond to your questions. So, last week, I shared with you the first and most important key to achieving success in Africa, which is to create a 10-year vision and write it down. If you haven't watched that video, episode 1, I encourage you to do so. The easiest way to find it is just subscribe to this channel, and you will see the list of Success in Africa videos that are available. Episode 1 is called New Year's Resolutions Are a Waste of Time. Now, today, I'm going to share you one nugget of success wisdom, and that is this. Keep your promises. Let me say it again. Keep your promises. It sounds easy, but yet many people do not do it, to their detriment. In Africa, one of the best known educational institutions is the African Leadership Academy. ALA, as it is commonly known, was founded in 2004 by Fred Swanica, Chris Bradford, Peter Mumba, and Achaleke. It officially opened in September 2008 with an inaugural class of 97 students, and it's located in the outskirts of Johannesburg, South Africa. To date, ALA has graduated thousands of entrepreneurial leaders whose impact are being felt across Africa. And the demand for admission is so high that only 5%, just 5% of applicants are accepted into the school. The origin of the vision for ALA came from Fred, who wrote the business plan for ALA while at Stanford University as part of his MBA program. His co-founders are alumni of Stanford University or McKinsey, the company that employed Fred and which paid for his education at Stanford. Now, many people know about the African Leadership Academy. But not many know that the dream would never have been actualized if Fred had not kept his promises to McKinsey. You see, McKinsey, in return for paying for Fred's education at Stanford, required Fred to work for them for a minimum of 2 years after graduation. After developing the plan for ALA, Fred believed, though, that he just could not entrust the running of ALA to anyone else during its startup phase, and he was simply unwilling to delay the start of the project, so he informed McKinsey that he was not going to come back to them after graduation. McKinsey said, "Fine, then you owe us $130,000. Fred scraped, begged, borrowed, and fundraised from friends and family for money, and he raised $110,000. But he was still $20,000 short, which led to many calls from McKinsey to him to demand for their money. During this time, Fred could have dodged McKinsey and ignored his commitment. After all, he was going to be operating in Africa, and it's not like McKinsey's presence and influence in Africa at that time was so strong that he would not have been able to survive without their goodwill. However, he did not dodge them. And even though it took him more than a year, Fred fulfilled his financial commitment and paid back the money to McKinsey. You see, what is significant about this story is that as a result of him keeping his promises to McKinsey, Fred was able to tap into the McKinsey network of partners, clients, stakeholders to raise funding for the African Leadership Academy for many years, even up till today. If Fred had succumbed to the temptation to run away with McKinsey money and not keep his promise to them, it is unlikely that he would have been able to get wealthy and powerful people to invest their time, their talents, and their treasure into the vision that he had for ALA. Even his partners may well have declined to have their names and reputations tied to his, and may have declined to be his co-founders and board members. In Africa, it is tempting to think that people become successful by cheating, stealing, and lying their way to the top. That is hardly the case. You may be living in an area where it appears that it is the liars, the cheats, the slick talkers who are progressing and driving fancy cars. I assure you, this type of success is fleeting. It does not last long. The kind of success that you want to have is lifelong success. The kind that lasts longer than 10 years or 2 presidential terms. Too often, we see people rise quickly during a time when their political party is in power, and they think they will always enjoy this wealth. We forget that within 10 years, they will be suffering quietly in silence when their lack of integrity is no longer covered up by political patronage. You see, folks, keeping your promises is a matter of integrity. To be successful in Africa, distinguish yourself by developing a reputation of being a person of integrity, somebody who keeps her or his promises. When you say you will be in a meeting at a certain time, show up at that time, not 5 minutes later. If you are held up and will be late, call ahead. Notify the parties expecting you ahead of time about the delay so that they can adjust, because now you've made a new promise. If you take a loan, pay it back. Don't wait until the lender has to chase you before you think about giving an excuse. It is said in the Bible, he who is faithful in a little thing is also faithful in much. And he who is dishonest in a very little thing is also dishonest in much. Think about it. If you have written down your 10-year vision and you've read it to yourself, one of the things that will be obvious to you is going to be the fact that in order to achieve that vision, you are going to need access to resources that you currently do not have access to. You're going to need people who have such resources to invest their time, talent, and treasure into your vision. And the people who have access to those resources, who have the time, the talent, and the treasure that you need, are not in the habit of investing it with people who do not keep their promises. They may even like your idea. You may have the best business plan or concept note or manifesto, but if the person who is leading the implementation of the manifesto, in other words, if you are not trusted to keep your promises, the people who have the resources to make that manifesto or concept note or business plan come to life are not going to willingly invest it in the idea. See, failure to keep our promises is one of the major reasons why many people in Africa are not successful. And it is a key differentiating factor between successful people in Africa and unsuccessful people in Africa. Now, if you have been in the habit of keeping your promises regularly, congratulations, keep going. But if you have not, I ask you, make a change today. It may not be easy, but you can do it. If you need to, share your commitment with a friend or a colleague or somebody that you trust and empower them to check in on you from time to time and hold you accountable. It means that there will be sacrifices that you may have to make in the short term that may be painful. You may not be able to chop that money that you used to steal quietly. You may not be able to enjoy that illicit sex that you used to enjoy. Or show up late to meetings without a care in the world the way you used to. But rest assured, if you do this little by little, making it a habit, even if it takes a few months, years, or more, people around you will start to notice. When they notice, they will start to trust you more. And when they trust you more, they will eventually be willing to invest in your vision, if you have one. And if you don't have one, please develop one, write it down. Listen to the first episode of this podcast and implement it. Keep your promises, dear African. Keep your promises. Keep your promises. And I promise you that I will see you on the brighter side of success. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to sharing another nugget of wisdom next week with you. I also look forward to reading your comments and answering your questions about this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Click the like button. Tell your friends about it. Together, we can transform our beloved Africa. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.